You hit the goal. Maybe not perfectly, but you did it. And for half a second, it felt good. Then, something shifted. The bar moved. A new target appeared. And the feeling you were chasing, the one that was supposed to come with finishing whatever this project was, never actually landed. Here's what nobody tells you. You're literally doing what you were designed to do. And the problem isn't that you want more. The problem is you never learned how to arrive. How to be still and appreciate all that you did to get here. And most importantly, to celebrate yourself for who you are right now and not who you were trying to become. Today, we're going to talk about that, the expansion trap, why we fall into it, and what it actually looks like to let yourself land and be present with your success. My name is Michael Perry, and I'm joined today by Justin Gates, as always. And this is the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Today we are diving into the expansion trap. It's a term I'm coining for myself, but it's something that I have relentlessly fallen victim of. It's always that feeling that I'm going to make this thing happen, and then I make it happen. I don't even stop to smell the roses. It is just, what's next? What do I grow next? What do I build next? What do I create next? What is the next step in the evolution of me? And it's not bad to chase expansion, but we have to learn to celebrate the wins, or else we'll always feel like we're behind, like we're not reaching the goal.
We have to stop and smell the roses. It's funny. I did a show many years ago on the KOA podcast, the Nights of Awakening, with my old friend David Edge, and he wanted to do a show. I remember him saying, "I want to do a show about smelling the roses." And I said, "What? You mean like actually smelling the roses?" He's like, "No, dummy. I want to talk about how we just burn through all these projects we're doing." And he was calling me out, was what he was doing, right? Because I am very much like that. Not so bad these days. I do try to rush, and then I trip, and then I fall into the flowers now and smell them whether I want to or not. But yeah, it's something that a lot of go-getter type people find, and especially a part of our audience are coaches out there, and they do it too. So this is about stopping and smelling the roses, as you said, which is a perfect analogy for this.
Yeah. Well, I think another important mechanism to this is it's hardwired into our nature. Us as people, especially when we were foraging back in the day, right? Our goal was always to expand, to grow. You know, that's how villages were built, and then civilizations. I mean, you look at a lot of people who were athletes, pro performers, people who started major businesses, and how they wind up in depression, and it's often because they hit the peak of what they spent their life building, and there's nothing they can do to grow beyond that.
Right.
And this sense of helplessness kicks in because
they hit a ceiling, or they because we get to an age where we can't compete anymore sometimes, right? I mean, that's just depending on what you're doing. It's difficult to compete if you're an athlete. It's difficult to compete if you are using old, outdated tools to research or compete with new scientists and all this stuff. It's even tough if you're kind of an old school healer to keep up with all the stuff that's going now. And so we kind of feel like we hit a ceiling. The smart ones become coaches, right? Like sports coaches. You know, if you have a baseball player who hits the ceiling and they're kind of pushing him out, he can go back home and become a coach or whatever. But yeah, look, there's nothing wrong with wanting to grow, but we do kind of hit that ceiling, and it's really important for us to stop for just a little bit and see what we've built and see what we've done and what we've accomplished. But the problem is, Michael, and I'm speaking for myself here, and I know I'm speaking for you, on why we get stuck in this, because we are curious. We create things and we learn from that, and it's exciting, and we want to do that again and again and again, right?
We build a 4-cylinder car, and then all of a sudden we realize I could add 2 more cylinders to this.
I want to go
start
faster.
Over. Yeah.
Right. Because along the way, we're setting and achieving our goals, we're solving problems, we're developing new ways of dealing with things and abilities, and we get better, we get wiser, really. And we don't teach stagnation here. That's kind of where you and I get stuck. This is the paradox, because although we don't teach stagnation, we do run into it because we run out of stuff to do, because we hurried through everything. And because our path, the path that we walk is built around continuous growth. And this idea of the eternal student, right? We always want to be the eternal student. But if we're not stopping and pausing for just a moment to as you said, smell the flowers, we really have trouble becoming the eternal student because we feel like there's nothing left to do.
Well, it all comes back to one of our favorite things, right? Balance. Because often for those who are, I wish I had it pulled up in my Shadows of Virtue because there's one that perfectly ties into this. But it's virtually, if you're someone who lives in the moment, right? You're someone who's actively just doing everything they can to enjoy this moment. You're in the present, but you're lacking the ability to plan for the future, to move forward. But when you shift those tiles where we're at, where we're just constantly, we see what the future is and we're building everything towards it, we forget to be present. It's so hard for us to just stop after we build something and appreciate what it is without saying, well, here's 20 other things I could do to it. Or here's what the next project is that can utilize this or build upon it. And man, am I guilty of that. I got 50 projects, all variations of one another.
Right. And that's the thing, too. Very early on in this podcast, I think probably within the first 5 episodes, I had shared with all of you that I went through my computer and cleaned out literally thousands of files that were all very similar. Because I would have these ideas, I would put all this stuff, all the brainstorming stuff out there, and then I would forget about it. And then, 6 months later, I would have that ideal again. Now, the reason that ideal keeps coming back is because, hey, knucklehead, follow through, finish it, right? So you and I kind of hit both sides of this. So I'm okay calling myself out here today on this one too, because I'm guilty of that. But the problem here today is that expansion becomes all we know in the moment. You were talking about not being able to be present because we fall into this trap, as you call it. Yeah. Where we're stuck. This is the only thing we know. We accomplished something that we worked for months and years sometimes to achieve, and almost immediately the mind goes, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Or you finally reach that magic number of things or of time or whatever. So, or you reach a milestone that you had, but now there's another goal, there's another improvement, there's another thing we could fix.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, my big realization, I think we talked about it offline. I might have brought it up earlier in this conversation, but it's like, I realize a lot of my productivity, as much as it's beneficial, I'm building all these things, I'm creating all these things. I look at who I used to be when I played video games all the time, was constantly watching TV and distracting myself. And it's like, this is just the evolution of those same mechanics. I am dissociating from reality and not allowing myself to feel all the feelers that are coming up with the stress going on in my life. Right. And I'm outsourcing it to projects I'm working on. I'm going from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, just building and working on things. And it's like, ooh, all right, radical honesty here.
Yeah, 100%. Axiom of light. I chose this axiom for a very good reason, and I know you'll probably get it why. When a lull is at hand, avoid the desire to resist this. Taking time to reflect and consider the knowledge, wisdom, and experience is a path to enlightenment. Now, this isn't so much a lull that's put in front of us. This is a lull that we must take. We must put ourselves in one, right? We must take a rest. And this axiom is damn near a direct antidote to this expansion trap problem, isn't it?
It is. It's ironic, though, because this axiom has so much power. Again, I love how all the axioms, you can come in at any point in your journey and they'll resonate differently. When I first heard this axiom, it was actually the opposite in the way it helped me. When a lull is at hand, I need to be productive. I need to not be aimless with that time. I need to take time to reflect, to integrate all the knowledge I've gained. And now you're absolutely right. This is the perfect axiom for quite the opposite situation too.
Right.
Where now that I've done all this, I need to learn to have a lull so that I can let it all integrate instead of just keep building on the skill set. Master the craft, then go on, right?
Right. And early on in your teaching, in your learning with me, we had a discussion about momentum and movement. And I was explaining to you that we have to, when we have a student in front of us, or someone we're coaching, or someone we're mentoring, or whatever the case may be, maybe even a loved one who's seeking our advice, we must first see where they're at. Because you said the key word earlier, balance. We're always seeking balance. We're always seeking harmony. And sometimes the correct movements are, I need to move you a little further to the right. And I'm not talking about pull-up politics here. I know that's kind of what it's going to trigger. But sometimes we need to orient people's right or left, depending on where they are, or up and down, to help them find balance, help them find center. And what you said about this axiom is 100%, because you were in an opposite. You were almost upside down now with this axiom. And now we're turning it back the other way so that we can find balance again. Because here we must take the law so that we can, right, reflect and consider the things that we've accomplished and allow ourselves that celebration too. That's something else. You know, one thing that I fall into is I do something that affects people and affects them in a good way, and I just push through it, like, you know, like, hey, I appreciate you did this or whatever, and I don't even see that. I just keep moving and moving and moving and doing more and more and more. This also came up with my medical scare, right? Remember, you asked me what I was stuck on emotionally, and it was like, did I do enough?
Yeah.
Did I do enough? And that's this. That is this. I fall into that trap that all the things that I've done in my life's work up to this moment, that's really not enough. I think it is.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would say it was, right? More than some. So that's why we have to take, and unfortunately, because I'm so damn hard-headed, I had to almost have a heart attack to take the law, to sit and reflect and do the things that this axiom and this show is trying to get us to do today.
Well, and it's such an easy trap to fall into. I mean, again, it's like that whole shift of like all the things I used to do never felt productive. So I always felt really bad about myself doing that. And now I'm doing this, and it's introducing itself in a way that's so seductive, because it's like I am growing, I am expanding, I am building all these things. But like you said, with your file analogy was perfect, and it hit me hard, man. Because right now, when I open my desktop, I have probably 30 terminal windows that open up and then go into the background, because I have all these programs running on my computer. And I actually just did what you did last week, where I'm like, okay, I need to go through and figure out, what am I actually using nowadays? And I went through, and like a third of the programs were things that were test builds and something I tried to implement and then never touched again, and now it's just auto booting on my computer, and it's like, okay, all right, we got a problem here. So what are some ways this shows up?
Well, the expansion trap is one of those things where it's very difficult to recognize, because from the outside it looks like you're very ambitious. And I'm like, this guy, Michael, he's very ambitious, and not in a bad way. He's working hard. He's discovering these things, not just for himself, but they're actually helping others. We can see this happening. So it looks like a very good thing. And those things are good, because you accomplished the goal, and before you've ever had time to even experience it, your mind starts to move somewhere else, and it happens so fast. That's where it becomes a trap, right? Because it's good, you're trapped, and now you're on to something else. So that's one way it shows up. I'll give you an example. You lose 20 pounds, right? And instead of saying, look what I accomplished, the thought becomes, yeah, but I still have another 20 to go. Like, this is something that's happening to me. I need to lose 50 pounds so that I can get my health in much better improvement. I need to get lighter. And I'm like 10 or 12 pounds down in the last, month, and that's great. But then I don't think about how great that is. Heather tells me how great that is. Everybody else tells me how awesome I'm doing, but my mind goes where? I still got 35 to go.
Yeah.
That's where you
exactly.
get trapped.
It's so easy too, because I mean, we're not naturally inclined to celebrate ourselves. I know for me, at least, that is something that is one of my greatest weaknesses. Is I never stop and smell the roses. I love that terminology, because that's exactly it. I mean, it's like I just got my degree. Do you know how much time I've spent reflecting on, wow, you made it through school? I have thought about it less than 5 minutes of my life.
I probably thought more about it than you did, and it was you, the accomplishment. I've probably spent more time congratulating you than you did thinking about and soaking it in.
And it's a real thing. And so, I mean, often that's part of what the goalpost does. It doesn't allow us to normalize success, because I think it actually is really detrimental to our mental health. I'm just sort of soaking this in right now, but it's like when we don't have these moments of success to soak in, we then no longer, we lose the opportunity to validate our own capabilities, and instead we're trying to prove that much more. One of the big epiphanies I've had as I've started working with these different businesses is it's like the first couple, I'm building these elaborate projects. I'm trying to go in there and show them what I can do. And then it hit me. It's like they don't need to be sold on my capability. They're already lending me the ear and wanting to work with me. I don't need to sell myself. I don't need to keep trying to prove my worth, which is often one of the underlying motives of this. Maybe not necessarily, I don't feel like I'm enough, let me make sure. It's that I want to have as much reputation as possible around the work I'm doing when it's not totally necessary, at least at that level.
You know, how many times have you moved the goalpost, Michael?
I always move the goalpost. It's the exact issue, right?
That's another way it shows up. We move the goalpost. We hit the income that we want, and then all of a sudden, that's the minimum. Or yesterday's achievement, like you graduated college, right? That becomes your new baseline. If you're not paying attention,
Ooh,
and
and
before you could even use the damn thing in work, you're already thinking about a master's, right? I mean, it's just we have to give ourselves time to chill. Chill, bro. Chill, right? Start sending people chill pills. And all of this, Michael, creates a very strange inner experience, especially if we have some trauma that's pushing us along. Because you can make a lot of progress on things and still feel really behind. You know, think of it like this. Have you ever had something that you really wanted desperately and you worked your ass off to get it? And you finally got it, and 6 hours later, you barely even remember or acknowledge the thing that you now possess.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I think that's been one of the reasons I'm realizing I need to take time to metabolize what I'm learning. I'm building all these projects, I'm doing all these things. But I'll bet you in a year, you ask me about it, I'm going to be like, I don't know how I did that.
Dude, think about your life. You got married a year ago. You're buying your first house. You're moving in literally like next week.
Baby on the way.
A baby on the way. You graduated college. You finally took control of and took power in your job. Think about what you've done in the last year of your life. And don't you dare fucking move from that thought. Not for 5 or 10 minutes. Tonight, you better dream about that, right? Because it's amazing what all the stuff you've done. And here you are, still crushing it, even though it doesn't feel like it sometimes. So, and all of you listening, you've done so many things this year that you've forgotten to pat yourself on the back for, or at least give yourself credit for surviving through, right? So that's what this is about.
That was a slap in the face, bro.
You need to take some time to understand that you guys killed it. You guys are rocking it. Shit. That's why this axiom is so important. One who walks the path of light does so with acceptance and contentment, free of conflict. Because this axiom is telling us, stop moving the damn goalpost the second you do something. This axiom does not say, stop growing. It doesn't say stop striving. It doesn't say stop setting goals or stop becoming something greater. It tells us the path can be walked with both acceptance and contentment, even when things are hard and especially when things are good. Contentment should not be contingent upon not failing or not succeeding in something immediately. Contentment comes with acceptance, right? And this matters because this trap tells us that contentment and growth are enemies sometimes. We say they're not. I can accept where I am and still move to where I need to be. I can be both. Here are the big paradoxes that we run into on this path. And it's not just this path creates them. This is life we're talking about. Right? The universe and life are full of paradoxes.
Well, I think one of my big realizations with this work I've been doing recently is, again, how I've been sort of shifting from gaming and videos to productivity. And it's like, I went through so much hell the last couple of years, and I haven't given my system a chance to really process it. Only recently have I finally made the nervous system distinction of not articulating my feelings. Because one of my greatest weaknesses when processing all the trauma I went through is I would go into intellectualizing it. A feeling would pop up and I would tell myself this is the story attached to it. And I would use that to justify the feeling instead of allowing the feeling to just exist regardless of what's making me feel it.
Right.
And I mean, my productivity is very much an escape hatch for me to be lost in something instead of present with the feelings in my body. And I think there's one other key thing that really impacts me being so crazy productive, and that's that I conflate stagnation or satisfaction with stagnation. I'm worried if I slow down, I'm going to stop. I'm going to fall back into old patterns. And it's like I'm running out of fuel and I'm not even realizing it. And yeah.
Through our teachings, we know contentment is not stagnation. Because, and here's how I know this, because when we achieve the highest level we can on this path, we become the student again. Growth will always continue on and on and on. So stagnation is not possible for us if we are truthful and we keep integrity. But here, you said it perfectly. It's important for us to understand that this trap slowly turns our achievements into like some kind of weird identity test or quiz or something, right? As you just said. So the question stops being, what would I like to create today? It becomes, what must I accomplish next to prove that I have value?
Yeah.
Not just to me, but to everyone else. And that's where growth loses the ability to find harmony. We should not only just be present for the next milestone, because the light, the force, God, is not waiting at our next promotion or the next income figure or the next achievement. Those things are present all the time. We have to understand that. And if we can't experience the present because our attention is perpetually attached to some next thing and next thing and next thing, then what do we do for our whole life? We spend a whole life pursuing a life that we never actually get to enjoy.
Yeah. You know, I was talking to my brother recently, and he's not one to offer guidance or advice, but I remember him saying to me, one of the greatest lessons I had to learn, and I learned unfortunately late, was that I was so lost in trying to become someone to accomplish all these things that I never actually stopped and enjoyed the moment. And now I'm in my 50s, and time is finite, and I never let myself enjoy it until now. And it's like,
it's never too late. You tell him it's never too late. It's never too late.
It's never too late.
It's never too late, man.
So what are some ways we can go about changing this behavior?
Well, let's not kill our ambition. Let's try not to do that, right? Let's try not to become so passive that we don't care about anything at that point. Let's not stop setting goals or reaching towards something greater. What we need to practice here is how to land before we take off again, right? Let's go through that practice of learning to stop, pause, give ourselves a lull, right? As that axiom teaches us. Most chronic, I don't know, what do we call them? Strivers? Overachievers? Is that what we call them?
Overachievers, yes, drivers. Yeah.
Most of these chronic overachievers, they know how to get it going. They know how to set the goal and create the plan and push through the problems and resistance, sacrifices. They know how to do those really well. They know how to reach, but what they often never learned was how to complete the cycle. You accomplish something, and instead of allowing the experience to settle and actually integrate and actually, wow. And what they don't realize is it'll make the next time easier and easier and easier, right? Because they start to integrate this wisdom. They jump back in the airplane and take off again. So the best way to start to change this is to name it, call it out, right?
Yeah. I completely agree with that, because if we don't, naming is such a powerful tool in so many ways. I actually wrote a blog recently about like self-help, or how a lot of the therapy talk that's become really destructive in the modern day is actually something that, if used correctly, could be beneficial as a tool.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
if you find something that resonates with you, you don't have to identify with it, but you can use it to understand the mechanisms. Words are so powerful, and I think being able to name this project is done and that I need a lull, to be able to state with radical honesty, again, that is one of my favorite things, about radical honesty and radical accountability. This is where I'm really at. This is what I really need. And being able to state that. Because often we don't listen to where our battery levels are at. We're just listening to the nervous system cranked on to max. And we take that as a sign of, I'm ready to go.
Right. Right. There is a very simple thing we can do. And it's really just once you've hit a milestone or completed a project or whatever it may be, you just got to ask yourself a couple of questions, honestly. And this will go a long way. What did I just do? What did I complete, right? What did it require of me? What kind of resources did I have to give up? Right? That could be where you list the sacrifices, or you list the actual resources you had to give up, money, time, whatever. What growth in me made this possible? That's a good question to ask. We're always about asking better questions, right? We're philosophers out there. We're all like these amateur philosophers. We love to ask questions. What am I proud of or grateful for? Really, I should restate that. What am I proud of and grateful for, right, during this whole process? And the last question you could ask yourself, and you should be asking yourself, can I just chill and let this be enough for right now? Can I take a few minutes, right?
If you take anything away from this episode, it is that sentence.
You're right. So, you know, that's really how you start to, because we have to call this stuff out, and we have to call ourselves out. It's radical accountability, right? We have to call ourselves out, and sometimes that means asking ourselves very important questions. And then you got to sit with it. Take that lull. Take it. It's good for you. It's like medicine. I know. Just pinch your nose if you don't like it. Pinch your nose while you take it so you don't have to taste it. But you need it, damn it.
Well, and I think another important note is these lulls does not mean you can't hold expansion at the same time, right? Like have a notepad or a thing on your phone for to-dos of what you want to build. In fact, this might even be more beneficial if you're someone like me who completes a task, jumps onto that next. You can take that lull to really refine what the next steps look like. Right. That's still being in the lull. It's being able to be present and be still and be appreciative for where you're at. But you can still hold both things and it still be true.
Right. Yep, 100%, dude. Paradoxes are good for us, even though our minds sometimes don't feel that way. You can do this, and it's fine. You can hold these things at the same time. But if you're somebody who's trapped here, then you need to do more lull and less planning for at least a little bit. You know, take it. If it's a really big accomplishment, man, take a few days off. Like really, really sit with it. You know, when people get married, what do? They run off and celebrate, man. Usually.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
You know, so, right? I mean, traditionally people, you know, when they get promotions or when they get whatever, they at least take a day. They go have dinner with their family. Hey, look what I did, family. And it's a celebration. Everybody's happy, right? We have to learn to do that for maybe not the super big things, too. We need to learn to take time to integrate our success.
I was going to say celebrate, but integrate's really what it is. That is the heart of all of this.
Well, being able to.
Yeah.
Axiom of light. Empty your heart and be at peace amidst the happenings of the world. Observe how endings become beginnings. Now, this axiom can be very super deep, especially when we use it to address grieving or death or things like that. But this is, as all things, we don't just talk about the big things here, because it's the little things that really shape most of our lives. And this axiom's a perfect fit here because we're talking about a rhythm that we're trying to restore within ourselves, right? We start, we work, we complete, then we rest. We're trying to to correct the cycle, to bring us back into balance. An ending should be allowed to be an ending. This is what I teach you, right?
Yeah.
Endings are endings, and they must be endings so that we can now begin again. We're talking about a life here. This axiom just helps describe a life as unfolding through chapters and seasons. It teaches us to release attachment and expectation and creates enough inner space to experience the things that we need to experience. Peace and grief sometimes. Some of these things can be grieving too. You work 10 years on a project, Michael, imagine, and then it's over. And then what do you do? There's going to be some grief there too. It's going to be hard. Going back to your example of the pro athlete. Oh, there's a lot of grief there.
Yeah. Well, it's almost like you have to mourn because the career's at the threshold, and now it's like that path is now done. It's over. There's no... It's grieving who you became so you can become something new.
Right. And we tend to resist that. But we must allow endings to be endings and beginnings so they can become new beginnings, so that we can let life unfold. Because if we don't, then we're going to find a lot of resistance, and it's going to cause us more suffering. The more resistance we put in front of the flow of life, right, creates more resistance. And resistance creates what?
Stress. It creates chaos.
Pain.
Misdirection.
Suffering.
Above all, you're out of alignment. Like.
Right. I don't ask the Luminari to choose between becoming and being, because the path is continuous. We are always on, even if that cycle gets busted up and it's a hard cycle, we get to decide that. It's going to keep flowing whether we want it to or not. But we like to become the student again because we want to continue learning and expanding and deepening our wisdom. But continuous growth cannot be good for us or feel good for us if we have this continuous self-rejection. We must fall back into the rhythm, right? And the rhythm is a beginning, effort, completion, rejection, integration, then a new beginning. And they don't always hit in that order, but there is that cycle. So it's really, really, really important for us to understand, that we are dealing with something that's partly out of our control. The flow of life, the flow of energy, the flow of the world, the universe, God. All these things are outside of our control, but we must take time for these things. And hell, I just gave you my closing without you even asking me for it.
I was just thinking about that.
You let me get on this tangent.
For our exercise today, think of one thing you've accomplished in the last 30 days. Something you've worked for, even if it felt small. Then I want you to allow yourself to just sit with it. 60 seconds, just enough time to really look at the accomplishment and what you did. Notice what comes up for you, what the brain immediately says. Because often it's going to try to point you into the next direction, or what wasn't enough about that. But I want you to practice this over the next week. The more time you allow yourself to sit with that accomplishment, and you only have to do it for a minute a day, maybe even try to stretch it a little more each day. Allow yourself to see it not for what it could be, but for what it is and what's good about it. Start training your mind to see these things and to celebrate you. It's something that will take some time building those neural pathways, because if it's something foreign to you, it's going to take some time. For affirmations today, I am allowed to feel good about how far I've come. Wanting more and being grateful are not opposites. I complete cycles. I land before I leap. My growth is real, even when the bar moves. And I am becoming. And I am already enough in the becoming. For our journaling prompts, when did you last let yourself feel a win? Not a stepping stone, but as an arrival. What made that possible? Or what got in the way? Where in your life does the goalpost move the fastest? What do you think you're afraid would happen if you stayed there long enough to celebrate? And lastly, what would it feel like to want more and believe you're already enough or have enough at the same time? What would change about the way you approach life? Thank you so much for joining us today. I really hope you got a lot out of this. Please like, comment, subscribe, It helps us greatly and allows us to engage with you and understand what you guys are looking for and what stuck. Also, if you think this could help someone you know, because I know we all know someone who struggles with this, share the episode. Hopefully it'll help click with them and help them land. Also, check us out on all the socials: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere.
Everywhere.
And check out the greatest website ever, newashla.com. Anything else I'm missing before we close out?
Our episode companion.
Yes, please. Down below, if this is something you struggle with, we have a companion guide that goes with this episode to help you work on this very thing and help you cultivate a practice of learning to land, learning to celebrate, without always feeling like you constantly need to move. And if you sign up for our newsletter, you'll actually get a full sanctuary guide, which is twice the length of the episode guide, that'll really help you build a practice and do a reflection process for a good length of time. So definitely check those out. And again, thank you so much for being a part of this family. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucem.
Ad Lucem.